All right, here we are. I'm Rob Levin, chairman of Work Better Now, and on behalf of the WBN team, thanks for joining us on this inaugural episode of How I Work Better Now. How I Work Better Now is a content series on workbetternow.com featuring a Q&A with a business owner executive who has developed ways to work better. Today, we are fortunate to be joined by good friend, longtime friend, Steve Etzler, founder and CEO of the Business Development Institute, otherwise known as BDI. Steve, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Robert.
Much appreciated. I'm going to just jump right in. We're just FYI for everybody who's watching. We're recording this on a Friday afternoon, so I'm sure Steve is waiting for happy hour. So with that in mind, I'm gonna get us started. So Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
So started BDI a long time ago in 2001. We are a marketing agency that specializes in helping enterprise technology companies attract their target audience through events. For many years, we did face-to-face events, and then about 6 weeks ago, we were forced to learn how to do virtual events. We pivoted very quickly, and we've done about 20 of them in the last 6 weeks, and I have another 25 planned in the next 6 weeks as well. So we've done a quick pivot. My team has done an incredible job with that, and we're learning a lot along the way.
Fantastic. Yeah. So for everybody who doesn't know, Steve and I go back, I think, to about 2004. I had a media company called the New York Enterprise Report, and which I founded in 2003. We did our first event in 2004, and we didn't know anything about events, so we partnered with BDI. Your business was obviously very different back then, and BDI showed us the ropes, and then events actually became a very, very popular and successful part of our business. So Steve, you mentioned that you just pivoted, which you and I spoke about this briefly. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you're able to pivot so quickly?
Well, it's amazing what you can do when, the survival of your business and you want to keep food on the table for your family and be able to pay your bills. It's quite a motivator. But we were fortunate because, the types of companies that we worked with, enterprise technology companies, in general, are pretty open-minded to innovative ideas to basically achieve the same goals that we were always helping them through face-to-face events. And those goals were to generate new business, attract their target audience, and position them as thought leaders on important topics facing their industry. The only difference was, instead of doing it in a private room in a restaurant and going from city to city in a roadshow fashion, which we used to do, we now do it online. We're using Zoom meetings, the video product, and using things like breakout rooms to replicate roundtables at private lunches where we can connect sales reps with target prospects. So basically we replicated, and thankfully for Zoom, had a very easy and proven technology to replicate the experience as much as possible from face-to-face to online. So because we had that ability, that technology, which is, obviously being used by everyone for everything right now, we were able to leverage that. The same approach applied in terms of how we used to do things to how we do things now. And along the way, we found some very good surprises. Like, for example, when we used to do face-to-face events in a city, we were limited by geography. You can't really get people that will want to travel more than a half hour to go to a lunch event. So that sort of limited your ability to invite people. Well, with virtual events, instead of just doing a face-to-face lunch in Austin, Texas, you now can do one for the state of Texas. Still taking a regional approach, because you still need to align with your client's sales organizations, and they are still based on geography. But you could do so and include multiple cities. So now the pool of attendees is greater. That results in a better quantity and even better quality in many cases, because you're able to focus more on getting more senior level folks. The other thing we learned about virtual events, which was a nice surprise, is that there's less friction to get people to participate. If you even a 2-hour lunch event still takes up about half someone's day. But, a 75-minute virtual event that you can do from home, all of a sudden it's a lot easier to participate. It's easier to get speakers. It's easier to even get clients to get their customers to participate as speakers. So these are some of the things that we learned as sort of pleasant surprises that really, I believe that we actually have a viable product. Hopefully things will get back to normal. We'll do face-to-face events. But I think the virtual event is here to stay. And for certain clients and certain situations, it's actually going to be more advantageous, and they're going to choose to do it over face-to-face events. So I think we're going to have a product that's going to continue to grow and evolve into the future. Plus, the other benefit is that it actually got us into digital marketing, because these virtual events are obviously digital. Now we can use these recordings, we can edit it, we can package marketing services around it, so we could provide additional ways to help our clients reach their target audience, and not only through the people who show up at events, but also the many people who don't. And being able to use the content, and this is something that you know more about than most people, being able to use very relevant thought leadership content to help our clients connect to their audience, even the ones that are not showing up to events, is a new opportunity for BDI, and one that we look forward to.
That's pretty cool. It's amazing how fast you did that. And you not only were able to pull that off conceptually and execute it, but you obviously got your clients as well as attendees to realize, hey, this isn't a webinar. This is literally the live event experience. Just in a digital environment. It's really
and that's
impressive.
A challenge we have, because originally when we were trying to let our clients know and potential clients know what we were doing, people naturally equated that with the traditional webinar. And as we all know, webinars are great. They have their place. They're great for thought leadership branding. They're great to reach a lot of people, to get a message out. But they're not great for connecting people to people. They're not great for interaction between a sales team and prospects. It's primarily a push relationship for the most part. And a lot of people, although I feel like because we're now 5 or 6 weeks into this, the education level is better with a lot of folks, there's still a big misconception that a virtual event equals webinar, when in fact it really isn't. The way that we're approaching virtual events, and others too, not just us, we're really putting connection first and content second. Content is super important, always will be, especially for getting people and attracting people from the first place. But once you have them, and once they're participating in the event, there's a major opportunity to have people, just like we're talking to each other now, even in small breakout rooms of 5, 6, 7 people, similar to like if you're in a private room at a restaurant, you're in a round table and you're enjoying a meal with 6 or 7 people, you can have an intimate conversation. You can get to know 5 or 6 people pretty well. And if one of those people running that conversation is a good salesperson, and the other 5 are prospects, and maybe one's a customer, it's a pretty magical formula for making good stuff happen.
That's really cool. Steve, how big is your team?
So all in all, we're about 25. We do have, thanks to you and for Work Better, we have 3 that we're working with from your organization that are in El Salvador, that are really a part of our team, so I consider that part. And then we have maybe 5 or 6 part-time folks who work as researchers, helping us build lists for our clients. And then the rest, I would say about 15 or so are full-time.
Gotcha. And what do you do? So, and how many of them are working remotely, in addition to the 3 that the 3 from Work Better now?
Well, the last 6 weeks, we're all working remotely because,
right.
We're not able to go to the office.
Question.
Yeah. So everyone's working remotely now due to circumstances. Before the crisis, I would say there were about a dozen of us in the office.
Gotcha. And let's say pre-crisis, and then maybe to the extent that this has changed in the crisis, what do you consider your role as the CEO?
Always number one, to retain my employees. I mean, certainly pre-crisis, it was employee retention. I mean, as we know, the economy was super hot. A-level talent really have a choice to work for whoever they want because they're so valuable. And thankfully, we have a bunch of A players on the BDI team. So my job was always to really foster a culture that that resulted in keeping my employees and keeping them fulfilled, keeping them happy, bought in. So that was number one. And number two was to create, in a similar fashion, our employer brand so that we were very attractive when competing for talent when we were hiring, because we were growing and hiring. So that was, my main objective, because ultimately, if you have a fantastic team, and look, we're in a services business, so, this could be different for those who are making products but in a services business where essentially the people is the number one factor in terms of client satisfaction. You need to retain your best people, and you need to make sure that they're growing and that they're fulfilled and that they're learning and that they're achieving their personal career objectives. And that's really what was my number one job. Now, I would say it's still the same, but I would add a layer onto it, which is number one, the health and safety of my employees. I think it comes number one because we're in a crisis, and it's not only, the health and safety from the virus, but it's also mental health. A lot of my employees live in New York City. It's a very difficult place to live right now. There's not, people are in small apartments, and there's not a lot of comfortable opportunity to be outside, and when you have to social distance in a city like that, and it's isolating. So making sure that their mental health is good is big. We do things like we have group meditation that I work with a great person that helps us do that on Zoom once a week. Awesome. We do group yoga. And I'm doing more one-on-one check-ins through Zoom, kind of like we're speaking now, just with employees. And the topic isn't about work. It's about how are you? How's your family? How's your husband, your wife, your partner? Are you able to get the food you need and the supplies? How are you feeling about things? And it's really just a conversation. And, I'm not a psychologist by any means, but really, you need to stay very connected to people very closely in this day and age, because there's, I believe, a big problem with the whole country in terms of our mental health. I think there was even before this crisis. This crisis has made it even that much more of a problem. So I'm very much in tune with that. So I spend a lot of time just having conversations with my employees about how they're doing. And naturally, it does turn to work. So that's good. And it keeps, allows me to keep my finger on the pulse of where everyone's at, how they're doing.
Gotcha. So, it's very similar to, for those who are familiar with Danny Meyer from Union Square Hospitality and Shake Shack. Basically, you put your employees first, everything else kind of falls in line. And you're obviously really putting a lot of your time and effort into your employees, into your team. That's awesome. From a technology standpoint, what has helped your company work better now? And its impact. Obviously, we've talked about Zoom. I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add about that, or if you want to go on to some other technologies.
So Zoom is super important, not only because our virtual product is on Zoom, but we're obviously using it for client communications and for team communications. So that, I think we've kind of covered. We are big Slack users too. So collaborating through Slack is important. From a communication collaboration perspective, those are the tools that we're using. We are also big users of a product that I'm not sure you're familiar with called Airtable. So Airtable is essentially a spreadsheet on steroids. It's sort of like a web-based spreadsheet that allows you to project manage, share documents, organize things. But what's nice is that every time you put in data into Airtable, it's like a database, so it updates it in other places. So when we have views of our events, we might be managing 30 or 40 events at once as an organization. All those events are managed on Airtable. They're updated constantly. So if we want to know the who, what, when, where, who are the panelists, are their headshots updated? It's all becomes a repository for data, repository for information, it provides the fuel to provide reporting on terms of everything. We're able to look at things from a dashboard, what events are performing well, which ones aren't. So it's really been a really valuable tool for us. It also works for automation too, because we're sending out invitations all the time to people to attend our events, and those invitations are automated. We use a tool called Woodpecker, I think we've talked about before, which is not also well known, but is a really great B2B email tool. They're based in the UK, and they've been sort of a game changer for us in terms of allowing us to have a conversational approach to email marketing when we invite folks. And again, that integrates with Airtable, and those are some of the ways that we automate the business and the processes that we do every day.
Very cool. I'll check Airtable and Woodpecker out. I wasn't too familiar with those. Any tech tips and tricks that you can share? So you mentioned, for example, Slack. I use Slack with Jessica, with my assistant, but I was loath to use it throughout the organization of not of Work Better Now, but with another business that I have. I was because of the interruptions, right? People sometimes just need to sit down and be uninterrupted and do some good work. Whether it's respect to that or any other tech tips and tricks, you're obviously you're doing a great job of leveraging technology. Anything that you want to share?
Yeah, I think Slack, email, they are interrupters if you let them be. I think some of the ways that we try and overcome that in our organization is by being really transparent about what we have on our plate and communicating that to each other, so that if my head is down for an hour because I need to write an event title, an abstract for a new client, and it requires research, it requires thought, stuff that I like to do in the morning, like I might let my team know that, hey, and then Slack's good because you can create your settings to be like, hey, I'm busy, or I'm, don't bother me now, kind of thing. So using the features of those technologies to communicate with people when you want to be left alone and when you're open to speaking is helpful for sure. So, but even with that said, it is sometimes frustrating because, it used to be, you have to search email for something, right? And now it's like, okay, I have to search email and I have to search Slack, or where did you send that to me in an email or Slack? It used to just be, what day did you email it to me so I can search? So there is sort of a downside to it that, you can manage, but I still feel the benefits outweigh, some of the things that are the drawbacks for sure.
Gotcha. Thanks. Let's talk about your experience with Work Better Now assistance. Well, what
Sure.
has the experience been like?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. I think we've had Linda for over a year. I think we've had Claudia now for over a year. And Daniela, who just started not too long ago, is doing great. They've really become an essential part of the team, is the best way to say it. We
Right.
treat them like they're teammates. So it's just that they're based in another country, and obviously we're working with them through you and Work Better Now. So they help us in a number of different ways. They really are a support organization to our account management team. They really help do back office processes, research, a lot of RSVP management. We're dealing with, like I said, at any given time, people are responding to attend events, sometimes 20 or 30 that we're promoting at once. And it's a tremendous amount of organization and responses that are required, because part of our approach is to take a real personal way where we connect with people, where we're sending them individual emails, so that making them feel really special, that because of who they are and what they do, that they're a good fit for our event. So it's not like go to a website and register. It's like a lot of personal interaction. So so all of the resources that we're using for Work Better Now really help us do that at scale in a big way. So that's number one. Number two is we're constantly doing a lot of research for these contacts. Our clients say, we want to reach, say, VP level up, security function, IT function in this region. And they also help us, and they help our research team perform those research assignments, which are take a lot of time and effort. They require a lot of attention to detail, and all those things. Your team has really been helpful in doing with us. So very grateful for all of them and the support that we get. And those are some of the things that they do and some of the highlights about working with them.
Awesome. Great to hear that. And of course, we're grateful because you were client number one for.
Oh, really?
That's
I don't
right.
think I knew that before today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should have asked you for guinea pig pricing.
Moving on. So, Steve, what do you do for fun when you're not helping your employees and building the company?
Yeah, well, I guess that definition has changed over the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I am a father of 3. I am married. We live in Fairhaven, New Jersey, which is a small town in Monmouth County, not too far from the beach. Love anything outdoors. I like, road biking, mountain biking, hiking. We live close to the beach, like I mentioned, so we spend a lot of time in the summers at Seabright Beach. I love hanging out with my college buddies. There are about 20 of us that we still interact with. Now, of course, it's through Zoom happy hours,
right?
Instead of meeting up in the city for dinner. Spending time with my kids, doing a lot of things, traveling. One of the benefits, or again, pre-crisis of being part of BDI is that we used to travel in all these great cities to do these events. And so my wife, Robin, would accompany me often. And we got to sort of travel around the different cities and enjoying restaurants and all the things that the different regions of the country offer. So I look forward to getting back into that again. I have a daughter in college at the University of Colorado Boulder, and spent a lot of time visiting her. Great place to be, with the mountains and stuff. And we were planning to go skiing in Breckenridge in a spring break. That was just as the crisis hit, so we had to cancel that. But we look forward to rescheduling that and doing that as well.
Yeah, I think you left something off the list, which is you like an occasional whiskey.
Oh, true.
I happen to know that for a fact.
Yes, and I appreciate the opportunity to learn about whiskey at a few of the events that you and Norm have hosted over the years, for sure. Yeah. Definitely enjoy those events.
Awesome having you there. Steve, that's all on my end. Anything else that you'd like to add? Or are we ready for happy hour?
No, I think we're good. Let's get out of whiskey.
All right. Sounds good. Steve Etzler from Business Development Institute, thank you very much. And looking forward to catching up soon, Steve.
Yeah, best of health to you and all your audience.
Thanks.
Okay.
Bye-bye.